All right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today is Monday, June 1st, 2026, Missile Monday. And I have this article from The Hill. And it says, the world can't bomb its way to nuclear disarmament. So I'm just going to go into this article and bring in a few scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. And, I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'm not going to read the entire article, but, I will read, a good bit of it, and then leave it in the description box for those that want to check it out. And it says, if President Trump wants history and the Nobel Committee to recognize him as a peace president, which he isn't, he has a strange way of going about it. No modern U.S. president has conducted as many military strikes against as many countries, because again, I forgot the exact number of countries alone that, he's did strikes on, but it's a lot, man. He's done a lot of strikes, right? It says, but Trump still has a narrow opportunity for redemption. Rather than trying to solidify his legacy by seizing new territories, erecting monuments to himself, and affixing his name to buildings like golden graffiti, he can pursue a stunning diplomatic achievement. The world is teetering on the brink of major nuclear weapons proliferation. There are three horses of the apocalypse running loose today: global climate change, unregulated artificial intelligence, and the spread of nuclear arms. Of these, nuclear weapons are the most dangerous. They can obliterate civilization in 30 minutes or less, all because one miscalculation or a moment of irrationality by the leader of a nuclear power. And that is factual. That is definitely true, because again, these weapons these nuclear weapons that are on the earth, they possess the capability of literally destroying the entire planet Earth, because that's how powerful they are, and that's how advanced they've become. But as we know, as it says in the scriptures, that the earth abideth forever. So the entire earth won't be destroyed, but, certain lands will, and literally they said, that they can literally destroy civilization in 30 minutes. One of the scriptures that says it's going to take the Lord 1 hour, to destroy Babylon, So that just goes to show you, the firepower that these different nuclear armed nations possess, right? Which is going to mention, it says, we don't often hear about it, but America's president has sole authority over 100 U.S. nuclear missiles, nuclear weapons, stored in at least 5 NATO countries: Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. That deployment leaves the host countries under threat of direct retaliation if an errant impulse triggers Trump. The only fail-safe solution is to abolish these weapons entirely, which that's not going to happen. It doesn't matter what, type of, agreement or treaty they try to come up with, they're not going to ban these nuclear weapons. They're on this earth for a reason, the primary purpose being to destroy Babylon, So continuing, it says, that's the goal of the treaty of the, that's the goal of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, which took effect in 1970. It has been signed by 191 countries, including 5 with nuclear arsenals: the US, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, and France. India, Israel, and Pakistan are nuclear armed countries that have not signed it. North Korea was a party to the treaty but violated it and withdrew in 2003 to develop its own arsenal. Iran has also violated the treaty, although it is still a signatory. Says the Non-Proliferation Treaty is one of more than 20 international arms control treaties achieved in the last 75 years that have reduced the number of warheads from 60,000 to 12,187. However, several factors make today especially fraught. The only remaining arms control agreement between the two nuclear superpowers, Russia and the United States, expired in February, referring to the New START Treaty, says now Russia and the US are expanding or modernizing their arsenals while China is working to develop comparable capabilities, and that's exactly what they're doing. Because again, the New START Treaty, it made them limit, the amount of weapons they could either produce. I know for the ones that they can have, in service, they can only have a certain number of them, in service. But now that treaty has, expired, now the two main nuclear superpowers, as it says, are now going to, expand and, up their nuclear arsenal, if you will, Says the U.S. has discouraged proliferation by putting other countries under its nuclear umbrella, promising to defend them if they are attacked. This includes the 31 non-nuclear NATO members. This includes the 31 non-nuclear members of NATO, Japan, the Philippines, South Korea, and Australia. Taiwan is assumed to be covered as well, although not formally. In 1969, the U.S. even threatened to use nuclear weapons against the Soviet Union if it attacked China. But Trump punched a few holes in the umbrella by casting doubt on America's commitment to defend its allies, which is why, again, Japan, if I'm not mistaken, is about 2 years ago, in 2024, late 2024, they were questioning if, the U.S. would have its back, during a time of war, and then earlier this year, you had the same thing, where you had Germany, pretty much, seek nuclear help from the U.S., but the U.S. never responded, or, Big T, never responded, to Germany, So again, America's allies are questioning whether or not, it's going to have their backs once World War III kicks off, It says, so NATO members are considering an expansion of their weapons, while public support for nuclear arms has increased in South Korea and Japan. Geopolitical tensions are another incentive for proliferation. Vladimir Putin has made overt nuclear threats against countries helping Ukraine. Trump threatened that Iran's whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again, if it did not allow oil shipments to resume through the Strait of Hormuz. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists has set the doomsday clock at 85 seconds to midnight, the closest humanity has ever been to man-made Armageddon. Despite his recent claims as a peacemaker, Trump's muscular use of the military has spanned his two presidencies. He has authorized hundreds of attacks on or in other nations, including Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen, Nigeria, Venezuela, and Iran. He has threatened or hinted at military operations in Colombia, Mexico, Cuba, and even Greenland. And yeah, man, this guy's on a rampage right now because they're supposed to, do a ceasefire between, you know, the U.S. and Iran, but clearly that didn't last long at all, you know. But this just goes to show you that we're getting that much closer to World War III, kicking off. But we still have to make mention which that prophecy is coming very, very soon. The prophecy of Revelation, the 13th chapter, verse 16 to 18, where it speaks of the mark of the beast, which the mark of the beast is the RFID microchip. We're seeing that prophecy get ready to come to pass because, again, before this great destruction takes place on earth by way of World War III, the mark of the beast has to be made mandatory first, but we're still, excited to see these things take place, So I'm going to start with the book of Revelation, chapter 11 and verse 14. It says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And right, we can see that, because it speaks of three woes, in the book of Revelation, specifically the 9th chapter, it speaks of three woes, man. The first woe being World War One, the second woe being World War Two, and the third woe being World War Three, And just like it says, man, the third woe is coming quickly, and we can see it, man, because right now, again, prophecy has to play out, which is why, excuse me, Slakia, which is why it seems like this, this war is dragging on, but again, things have to happen in their proper order, in their respective order, man, because we're about to see the mark of the beast become mandatory very soon, So I'm going to get the book of Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5, which I'm not going to make this too long, again, just going to hit, a couple main points, and then that'll be it. But this is Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. It says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And right, this coming world war isn't going to be like how traditional warfare was fought, where you would have one nation of men on one side of the battlefield, up against another nation of men on the other side of the battlefield, charging each other in the center, until one nation is left standing, man, because this, coming Third World War isn't going to be like how traditional warfare was fought with hand-to-hand combat, men having different, weapons of war, swords, spears, shields, bow and arrows, things of that sort. This war is primarily going to be fought with nuclear missiles, and as I always make mention, you will have ground troops that are going to be going to war with each other, but that's primarily how World War III is going to be fought, with this nuclear technology, Excuse me, Slakia. Let's get the book of Malachi, chapter 4 and verse 1, and it says, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. And right, what's that day that's coming that shall burn as an oven? World War III, aka the day of the Lord, man, because it's not going to be a good day upon the earth, man, because as it describes in the scriptures, The day of the Lord is going to be a day of darkness, a day of gloominess, man. It's going to be a very, very, literally dark and metaphorically, dark, man, because a lot of death is going to take place, upon the second coming of our Lord Yahweh Shai, So it's going to be dark, man, literally and metaphorically, man. It's going to be dark out here, because as it describes in the scriptures, man, these missiles are going to cover the sky, you know, because that's how many of them they're going to be, just like it speaks of in Revelation, the 9th chapter, man, 200,000, of these warheads are going to pelt this place and destroy it. So let's get that in the book of Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 4. It says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the hosts of the battle. And again, this is describing, the warheads in particular, because again, they're going to make a great noise, man. You're going to hear these missiles before you even see them, because by the time you see them, it's too late, because once they land, man, they're just going to, or you're going to see just a bright light, right before it detonates, because again, they're going to be traveling extremely fast, They're going to leave, the Earth's atmosphere, get their specific trajectory, and they're going to come back to the planet Earth, traveling at Mach speeds, These warheads are going to be on fire, upon their arrival, which is, a prime example of this would be the famous scene from Terminator 2 where Sarah Connor had the dream, that she was in a park playing, she's seen herself, playing in a park with children, and then what, out of nowhere, you just seen something fall out the sky, a bright light fall out the sky, and then boom, what, that flash, man, that nuke detonating and what, burning her up, man. And that's going to be the reality for a lot of people here in America, So verse 5, it says, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. And right, these missiles are going to be shot from one end of the earth and land in the other. So, for example, nukes are going to be launched from Russia and they're going to land at America. All of these different nations that possess these nuclear weapons are going to aim them at America, aka Babylon the Great. And it's just factual information, man. It's spoken that this place is going to be taken out by way of fire, man. And this is what we're patiently waiting for the Lord to come back and destroy this place, So I'll get it real quick. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 7 and verse 1. And it says, and after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And right, these are 4 literal angels holding back the 4 winds, which the 4 winds represent the destruction that is going to take place on the earth. World War III, if you will, because there is a set time when this war is going to take place. But when are these angels going to be loosed? In verse 2, it says, and I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power, and cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads, talking about the elect. Once the elect are fully sealed, and then, they get beamed up, they get taken up to the chariots, then that's when this destruction is going to take place, man. So as the elect are going up, these nukes are going to be coming down, So I'm going to end it with this. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 9 and verse 15. It says, and the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. And right there's a set time, as it says, man, there's a particular hour, day, month, and year when this war is going to take place. It's a set time when the Heavenly Father is going to, unleash those four angels so that they can loose the four winds, you know. And just like it says, to slay the third part of men, because you have three classes of men on the earth. You have the sons of God, which today are the biblical Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the tribe of Judah, all the way down to the tribe of Issachar. You have the sons of men, which are you different heathen nations. And then you have the sons of the wicked, which today are the Edomites, you so-called white people. You're the third part of men. So that's who this destruction is for you, and you will have 2/3 of the nation of Israel that are going to get caught up in this destruction along with you. And, you heathens that are over here that don't return to your homeland before this destruction takes place, you're just collateral damage. Your sole purpose was just to come to America, make a little money, and then die, But other than that, we can see that things are still heating up between, the different nuclear armed nations, and we're getting that much closer to, first and foremost, the mark of the beast, being made mandatory, and also the coming Third World War, So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the artists of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till next time I say, Shalom.